live button, which means we've got to wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet. And my goodness, everything literally just logged me out. Like as I just press let's go live. I don't know why it does that. It's the weirdest thing in the world. But I'm logged back in, which is tremendous news, which means we can go ahead and get started. Are we connected on the YouTubes, on the Rumbles, on the Locals, on the Twitters? And let's check back in over here on YouTube. I don't know what it just did. I got to reopen the YouTube chat now. Reopen all the chats. All right, that's loaded. We good over on Rumble? These things, man. All right, I think we're live. We good over there on YouTube? All right, enough already. Let's get started. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gov't. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and today we are talking about Donald Trump going wild, and it's been a doozy. And so we're going to go through this on True Social, man, over the weekend. I don't know how many different screenshots I've got. Look at this number right here, like 13 of them. Now, some of these are re-truths, some of these are doubles, but we've got all of these different clips from Trump. He was just blasting this off over the weekend, saying, if you go after me, I'm coming after you. And so this caused a whole kerfuffle. And I want to go through this. A lot of people on the left are saying, oh, this is just Donald Trump raging. He's just out there, rage tweeting. I'm not so sure about that, my friends. I think if you think that, you're missing the show. This is the strategy. We're now seeing the defense create this wedge between free speech and the Justice Department. And we're going to have to weigh and measure how this whole thing matters to America moving forward. So we'll go through this, a lot of these different posts that will hit, because Trump is also releasing a campaign video about this, blasting every single prosecutor who's involved in this case, in particular, Fannie, the biggest Fannie in Georgia, Willis, who is evidently going to be indicting Trump this week or next week. I mean, any minute now, to round us out with indictment number 4. So we'll go through that. Now, there are some pretty serious conflicts here. We have these little scales here, and I want to go through these: free speech versus the criminal process. And Trump actually had some comments about this out at the campaign trail, all as just foundation. Before we get to the courtroom battle, the government submitted a motion for a protective order, and I want to read through the motion. It's not a lot of, not long filings, but there are a bunch of filings, and these were crashing in on Saturday, Sunday, and today, Monday. They were asking for deadlines, and it was just a big kind of a mess. And this is very interesting. Now we're starting to see the knives come out, right? And we're splicing and dicing a little bit in the court of law. And we've got the government asking for a protective order to shut Trump up. He's having a lot to say, a lot we'll talk about. And they're saying that maybe this is going to impact the witnesses or the integrity of my investigation. You know how that goes. And so we'll see. Mike Pence has said, yeah, I might actually testify if I'm called. We know Bill Barr has said the same thing. The judge ultimately denied the extension for time. And so Trump's lawyers, literally, you can see how fresh this is. They just submitted their response. So Trump's team filed this right out of the gates. I mean, I literally checked the docket, boom, there it was. And so we'll go through all of it and more before we hear what John Lauro, Trump's newest lawyer, says about all of this on CNN. He says, Americans in America have a right to free speech, and he goes at it with Dana Bash on CNN. It was a nice exchange. So that's what's happening out of D.C. Then we're going to turn our attention over to what's going on in Florida. Now, while things are a bit messy in D.C., they're a lot more interesting in Florida, and it's actually a kind of a mess everywhere. But this is a also very interesting situation because the judge has ordered Jack Smith to explain himself. Kind of. This is really the defense has to brief an issue about why Jack Smith is doing something. Jack Smith is going to be able to respond to that, explaining himself, and we'll go into all of what that means. But the long and short of this that we'll break down in further detail, Jack Smith is prosecuting Trump out of Florida. The crime happened out of Florida, so he should lead his investigation out of Florida. Why is he going back to Washington, D.C., exploiting a D.C. grand jury in furtherance of a Florida crime? when, they have grand juries in Florida too. In fact, the judge in her jurisdiction, there's one in the same building. So why is he going out of state? Judge Cannon wants to know about that. And then lastly, we're going to round up some of the impeachment inquiry rumors, because there's actually a lot of talk on the Hill about this. We've got Kev McCarthy saying, we're inching closer to this impeachment inquiry any day now. And then they brought out these two people who, they're just, I don't know what they're doing. Anyways, Raskin is commenting on Hunter Biden saying, Washington has a lot of corruption, but this is not as nearly as bad as Trump's corruption. And then Pelosi, and you may have heard this out there. I've been listening to a lot of these Democrats, unfortunately, in preparation for the show. And they're all using this word cult everywhere. It's like this new talking point went out in their email, and they're saying it all over the place. Then we've got Byron Donalds, Marjorie Taylor Greene to round us out on this very lovely and beautiful Monday. And so as you can see, my friends, we've got a lot to get to today, and we would love it if you became a part of the program and joined us at our amazing community, watchingthewatchers.locals.com, which is where you can sign up, become a member, get member-only streams. We had a great Monday morning stream this morning for our Locals members and our YouTube members. We're grateful for our members. We've also got a brand new website. So if you'd like to sign up for our daily newsletter, you can do that. Just go to robertgovea.com. And you can also get access to the mind map. So everything we're going to go through today, all the documents, all the videos, all the filings you see, all available on the mind map. You just go to robertgovea.com, sign up for it. You can see, you can get links to all the latest videos. You can listen on the podcast formats. You can join our Locals community, and you can also get the daily reports. So every day in your inbox, you'll get a summation of what's happening, what the latest is. So the latest from the shows, all the various segments that we produce. And if you want to read the video or read about the story, we now have these reports where you can get a summary of exactly what's going on and see if you even want to watch the thing, which of course you do, till the very, very end of it. But all of that and more, robertgovea.com. We'd love it if you checked it out and joined up over there. And we'll see you on the newsletter. And now, my friends, before we get into it, love to thank our friends over at Field of Greens, because, it's a weekend and sometimes we get a little bit off track over the weekend, if you know what I mean. Some of those pizza, wings, barbecue sauce, bacon, Saturday and Sunday maybe get a little bit off track here, which means we got to get back on track, lose some of that extra weight, But what about the ads for the weight loss pills and the fad diets? We've all been there. We've all done that. We know they just don't work. But you know what does? Eating 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables every day. Pretty simple. You do that and the weight would probably just fall right off. But look, I know. Fruits and vegetables, not a fan. It takes a lot of work. Things go bad all the time. It's just kind of a pain in the butt. But you don't have to worry about that. Just grab yourself some Field of Greens, which is a science-backed formula of specific fruits and vegetables that you're not going to find in any other product. We know that proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you burn calories faster and lose weight a healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you are going to look and feel healthier fast, but the greater proof is going to come after or at your next checkup. When you walk into your doctor's office and he takes one look at you or she and says, "Whoa, mama, you're looking good." Whatever you're doing, in a non-sexual professional way, you're looking good. You know what I'm saying? Medically, whatever you're doing, keep it up. And so let's get you started. Go on over to fieldofgreens.com, and save 15% off when you load up on Field of Greens at fieldofgreens.com. Don't forget to use code Robert, man. It's how you save. And we all like to save and eat our vegetables, which want to be eaten. That's why they're here. All right. And now let's get to it. Yeah, Field of Pork Chops also sounds good too. Yeah, shout out to Field of Pork Chops out there. That's $1 billion product right there. All right, so let's get into it. Donald Trump is trolling Jack Smith, the Department of Justice, and some might even say the judge out of the D.C. court. They think that they're still legitimate institutions. The rest of us know better. And so today we're going to go through the government's request for a protective order. They kind of want to shut Trump up. They don't like this little chasm that they have caused to emerge. And so they're trying to put the genie back in the bottle by gagging him via a protective order and limiting what he can do and say. But Trump isn't playing along with this. In fact, he went wild on True Social over the weekend. And we've got 13 different posts that I want to flash forward through so we can go through this and see exactly what he's doing. Now, some people on the left are saying this is Trump just going bananas. He's going off the wall. And you see the usual suspects. What just kind of a tyrant monster insurrectionist just going wild on Twitter, or Truth, rather. I don't think that's the case at all. They have found something to latch onto. There is now a wedge and a major conflict that is kind of just set up for Trump to win here. I think the government fails everywhere you turn on this, unless they go to DEFCON 5 and jail him. And we'll see if that actually happens. So we've got a little bit of a dicey road ahead. But this is what Trump was posting before we go to his new campaign video, which he released on True Social. And this one is catching a lot of people by surprise. And we can parse through it. But he says, the latest fake case brought by crooked Joe Biden and deranged Jack Smith, the prosecutor, will hopefully be moved to an impartial venue, such as the politically unbiased nearby state of West Virginia. One second. I have a knock on the door. Let me see what this is. Not the feds. Not the feds. Not the feds. All right, not the feds. All right, I live downtown here. If sometimes I don't get it, it's gone. So thanks for indulging. I got to go get it quickly. All right. So we're back. He says, the latest fake case brought by crooked Joe Biden and deranged Jack Smith will hopefully be moved to an impartial venue, such as the politically unbiased nearby state of West Virginia. Impossible to get a fair trial in Washington, D.C., which is over 95% anti-Trump, and for which I have called for a federal takeover. In order to bring our capital back to greatness. It is now a high crime embarrassment to our nation and indeed the world. This indictment is all about election interference. I have called for a federal takeover. So this is an interesting little turn of phrase, given the fact that there's a whole bunch of hysterical Democrats who already think that Trump tried to cause a federal takeover of some variety in Washington, D.C. before. Like, they call it an insurrection. What's another word for insurrection? I don't know, takeover? They said like Trump wanted to take over the country by leading an insurrection. It's like literally the same word almost. But we see what he's saying. I think he's saying a federal takeover of the municipality, right? The feds come in and take over the municipality affairs of D.C. because the municipality can't handle their own affairs. It's crap all over the place. Excuse me. It's just a dump is what he said when he was there. So a federal takeover of the municipality peacefully, civilly, legally, lawfully, patriotically, all the things. But when you read it at first glance, you hear that word federal takeover and you go, oh, okay. And so that's causing a lot of people to raise their eyebrows. And the language, I think, is very intentional. Now, I'm going to go through several Trump truth posts just to get an eye of what's happening. And all of these came out within the last 3 or 4 days. And this is, I think, very intentional. Okay. He's talking about witnesses. He's talking about key people in this case. He's calling prosecutors by name. He's calling Mike Pence by name. And I'm going to go through this in a little bit about this conflict that exists, because we now have two competing interests that are adversarial against one another: the criminal case process and the sanctity of that process, and free speech and political speech and political life in America going head to head. So Trump is now calling out on the free speech world, Lil Mike Pence. In the criminal world, he's talking about a witness potentially. We're going to have a conflict. He says, wow, it's finally happened. Little Mike Pence, a man who was about to be ousted as governor until I came along. He's gone to the dark side. Says, I've never told a newly emboldened, not based on his 2% poll numbers, Pence to put me above the Constitution, or that Mike was too honest. He's delusional. And now he wants to show he's a tough guy. I once read a major magazine article on Mike. It said he was not a very good person. I was surprised, but the article was right. Sad. And I actually agree with this. I think that Mike Pence has been dishonest about this. I don't think that they were asking him to deviate from the Constitution at all. It was a different interpretation of the Constitution, but it was never to put Trump above the Constitution. That was a failing campaign's political slogan to deal with a problematic issue for them. He also said this one was more recently, because I clipped all these this afternoon. He says, I never said anything bad or even slightly inappropriate to little Mike Pence. What I did do was make him, over the many people who wanted it, VP of the U.S. Disloyalty in politics is alive and well. He says, there is no way I can get a fair trial with the judge assigned, he says in quotes, to the ridiculous freedom of speech, fair elections case. Everybody knows this, and so does she. We will be immediately asking for recusal of this judge on very powerful grounds. And likewise, a change of venue out of D.C. We'll see how those go. Now he says he's talking about the prosecutor by name. Deranged Jack Smith and our highly partisan, very corrupt Department of Injustice could have brought this Biden opponent case years ago, but chose to wait and bring it right in the middle of my election campaign. No way. I hope you're watching, America. Our country's being destroyed. Make America great again. Now, if this was any other political candidate commenting on the Department of Justice or this criminal case, this would obviously clearly be free speech, right? Clearly political speech. The Department of Justice, the weaponization of the Department of Justice, is one of the most talked about issues in the whole country. I mean, almost every single Republican candidate is talking about it and being asked about it. Even Biden and the Democrats are being asked about it. Are you sure this is legitimate? I mean, it feels like every day we wake up, there's a new indictment after Hunter's laptop releases some more information. So it's clearly political speech. He just happens to be also the subject of one instance of the prosecution by the illegitimate entity known as the DOJ, in this case, the Biden administration. One and the same, this whole institution. He's got another one. No way I can get a fair trial or even close to a fair trial in D.C. Many reasons for this. But just one is that I'm calling for a federal takeover of this filthy and crime-ridden embarrassment to our nation, where murders have shattered the all-time record. Other violent crimes have never been worse, and tourists have fled. The federal takeover, right, of Washington over the municipality of D.C. is very unpopular with potential area jurors, but necessary for safety, greatness, and for all the world to see. Using that language again. Federal takeover. All the insurrectionists, the hyperbolic, hystericals, they're out there. They're going, did you hear Trump is talking about a federal takeover? He's going to do it again. He's going to steal he's going to steal the podium again and break the clavicle of that Secret Service agent. If you go after me, I'm coming after you, says Trump. And this shows up in a government filing that they got real nervous about over the weekend, which we'll take a look at, which was the subject of the protective order. All this stuff they want to stop. Isn't it terrible, he said? And again, one after another. This is intentional. He just keeps going. Why not? It's his free speech. He's exercising it. Before a judge shuts you up, you better exercise it. You better use it hard. And then the judge can say, you can say this, but you can't say this. And this political topic you're allowed to talk about, but this political topic you're not allowed to talk about. Remember, this is not the classified documents case. This is the January 6th insurrection case. And if they are as serious as they say they are, and they have all of this monstrous evidence that's going to incriminate Trump and show us what a conspiracy this really was. We've got Stuart Rhodes and others going away to prison for 18 plus years. If this is all so bad, why are they trying to silence him at all? Or why are they trying to hide information from us? Let us see it all. Let's see all the evidence that they've got. But they're not wanting to do that. They're going to be filing stuff under seal, as we're going to see. But here he says, isn't it terrible that a political opponent can haphazardly charge you with fake crimes in the middle of your campaign in order to interfere with your time and message and money, costing him millions and millions of dollars? And there is nothing you can do to stop this travesty of justice. No, unless you control the DOJ. It used to be that we had at least somewhat ethical prosecutors who followed historical norms. But when Trump won, all that went out the window. They had 2.5 years to file, long before the campaign started. Another Russia hoax should not be allowed to happen. He said Biden and Garland filed bogus cases against me, so it becomes difficult for me to campaign. Nothing like this has ever happened before. That's right. Must be unconstitutional, right? But somehow, we will win it all. Considering the fact that I had to fly to Washington, a filthy, dirty, falling apart, very unsafe DC today, and then I was then arrested by my political opponent who's losing badly to me, despite all that, it was a pretty good day, says Trump. Meanwhile, Biden and his family steal millions. Look, and he's going here to the judge specifically now. I'm headed to DC to be arrested for protesting a crooked election. This is further back. Unfair venue, unfair judge. We are a nation in decline. And so that's when he was flying back. And you can see one right after the other. Long list of thoughts from Donald Trump, all highly political, highly protected until recently, political speech in America, where you could talk about elections, talk about your government, petition for a redress of grievances, and engage in free association and free expression. It's like First Amendment. But Trump also posted this. Now, the government wasn't happy about any of this. We're going to see their protective order in a minute. But he is calling out every single prosecutor in this new campaign ad. He says, welcome to the fraud squad.
How far will the most corrupt president in history go to keep Republicans from winning back the White House? Meet the cast of unscrupulous accomplices he's assembled to get Trump. Alvin Bragg, the radical liberal New York prosecutor who refuses to prosecute violent criminals. Jack Smith, who's made a career persecuting innocent Republican officials. Letitia James, the socialist who ran on the promise, I'll go after Trump. And Biden's newest lackey, Atlanta DA, Fani Willis.
Fannie.
So incompetent,
biggest
on
Fannie
her
in
watch,
Georgia.
violent crimes have exploded. So tainted, Willis was thrown off one case for trying to prosecute a political opponent. So corrupt, Willis got caught hiding a relationship with a gang member she was prosecuting. So dishonest, Willis was accused of creating a fake subpoena. Welcome to the fraud squad.
The fraud squad, baby.
Trump, and I approve this.
And you see who's right there, don't you? That's Jack Smith, man. So Alvin Bragg, Big Tishy, Letitia James. We've got Alvin Bragg, Jack Smith, and then you got Fannie, the biggest Fannie in Georgia, who is prosecuting all Donald Trump. So just one after another. Boom, boom, boom. And I think this is all very strategic, obviously, right? I actually think his lawyers are probably having conversations about this, saying this is a very interesting wedge issue that we're going to use and exploit massively. Here's why. Pretty big conflict here. We've got two camps. We have the free speech, political speech, campaign speech bucket, which is very strong, very powerful in this country. It's the First Amendment. We protect it at all costs, or used to. We also have something that is critical, which is also known as the presumption of innocence. So all of these things, we ask ourselves, is what Trump's saying, is that protected? Is that allowable? Which one of these things should matter more? Free speech, political speech, campaign speech, or the presumption of innocence on one side of this scale versus the other side of the scale, which is a conflict, which of course is the criminal process. And the due process, the government is going to say, hey, we need a fair shake here. We need to bring our witnesses. We need to do our due diligence. We need to have our investigation without any interference from outside sources. And plus, Trump might injure our witnesses, or Trump might expose something that's going to jeopardize the rest of this case or whatever, right? And remember, this is not the classified documents case. So emails, or other than protecting the witnesses and the identities of the witnesses, or which again, I don't even know why those should be secret if this is not a national secrets case. We've got some privacy rights and some attorney-client rights and victims' rights and stuff like that, but we don't even know who if there are named victims or anything like that. So my point is, on the other side of this free speech, political speech, campaign speech arm, we have protecting the criminal process. Theoretically, we have protecting the traditional norms. Normally, we don't blast judges. We don't come out and say, the DC court is totally illegitimate, or that the U.S. Attorney's Office is full of a bunch of corrupt partisan hacks. Normally, people don't say those things. But today we do. Why? Because, the traditional norms have been shattered into 1,000 pieces. They initiated the prosecutions against Trump, not the other way around. So if they want to turn around and then suddenly say, hey, you guys are being mean to us. Don't say things that are harmful out in public. We're honorable prosecutors. Give me a break. You guys started this. You guys raided his house for crimes that are on a much lesser scale with a lot less defenses than people like Joe Biden. And you did it, and you've done it 4 times now, or about to do it 4 times. And same things with due process. Can you still have due process? Can the prosecutorial proceedings happen normally, even if Trump is speaking? What do you need these gag orders for, in other words? Well, it's to shut Trump up. It's to limit his defense. Weighed in totality, it's not even a close question. And when we think about this in the future, if we fast forward just briefly, let's say a judge does issue a protective order, does gag Trump in any case. How are they going to enforce it? Just fast forward. Trump is obviously going to break it. And what are they going to do? Haul him in? You violated our protective order. He's going to say, so what? You're an idiot. And this whole thing's corrupt anyways. She's going to go, oh, you violated it again. He's going to go, so what are you going to do about it? Put me in jail? Lock me up? They might try to do it. But this is now going directly head on into the issue. Trump is even talking about this on the campaign trail. It's not just on campaign ads. And I'm going to make the donation to the swear jar on this one. Earmuffs for the little ones at home from the former president. Content warning.
Actually, every poll, we're kicking Biden's ass. And that's the problem. That's the problem. And if I wasn't, we wouldn't be under investigation by deranged Jack Smith. He's a deranged human being. You take a look at that face, you say, that guy is a sick man. There's something wrong with him. Somebody said, why don't you be nice to him? I said, yeah, wouldn't matter. Wouldn't matter. This guy's a maniac. They gave me a maniac. They gave him the nicest man in the world. You know the boxer's hooks, right? The boxer's hook. This guy's got 1,850 boxes, Lindsay. He's got boxes in China.
In China. Oh, Chinatown. He just keeps going on. So, all right, you get the point. Now, he's going after the prosecutors. He's going after deranged Jack Smith. He's going after the corrupt DC. He's talking about a federal takeover. It's just been a bonanza because he is he's testing the maximum boundaries of his political speech. We have 2 overlapping issues here. Criminal case, free speech. There is a dramatic intersection between the two, especially now that he's running for office. So the government flipped out about this, and they sent a motion for a protective order in to the judge, Judge Chutkan. And here is what it looked like. We've got both the request, the motion, and then the text of the proposed order. And here's what they said in response. 4-page filing. This one came out on Friday night, I believe that is what it was. That is, yes, Friday. Came out on Friday. After Trump posted on True Social. Coming out of the District of Columbia, United States of America versus Donald Trump. This is Jack Smith, Biden's motion for protective order. It is Joe Biden, Merrick Garland, and Jack Smith trying to shut up Trump. Says the government stands ready immediately upon entry of a protective order in this case to give Trump discovery, to give him access to the case files. Discovery that the Trump team has stated that they needed in order to abide by the trial date and comply with the schedule. To allow the government to begin to produce this discovery, much of which includes sensitive and confidential information. And again, this is the January 6th case out of DC. Release it all. What's so sensitive and confidential about it? The government respectfully moves for an entry of the attached proposed protective order governing the disclosure of discovery by the parties. So we're going to give you this file only if you promise not to do the things with it that we give to you. And so they want Trump to have his... So when he says, I've got all this evidence, this is just garbage, I can't talk about it? The court can, this is Jack Smith and Joe Biden's Merrick Garland writing, the court can and should enter it immediately just to allow the government to give them the files. And they say that we should just enter it right now because Trump can modify it anytime he wants if he objects to it. So I want to just, I know this is a technical point, but it's very important. The government is asking the court to just do it. Judge, just do it. And if Trump complains about it, then he can undo it. He can ask you to undo it. Rather than saying, Judge, hear from the defense before you do it. And they're saying that the reason you should do it is because we're in a hurry and we have all of this discovery to give. So it's like we're outside knocking on the door. Judge, just let us drop it off here. And then if they don't like it, they can figure it out on the back end. Which is obviously, if you're a defendant, you're like, what? You guys are just making up decisions about this stuff without my input on this? What are you talking about? It's a ridiculous request. In terms of like, let's just call it professional courtesy. It's insane. Just do it. If they don't like it, they'll figure it out. It's just like, you know, I'll install the TV right there, and if they don't like it, they'll call me back and we can move it later. Are you going to move it later? No. It's staying there. It's much harder to undo something than it is to do it right the first time, which is why they're doing this. So the government says, on August 1st, a federal grand jury came back with 4 garbage charges. We already know what they are. I mean, really don't really know much about them. You'll notice that of the 4 charges, no seditious conspiracy in there, which is embarrassing. If there are prosecutors on this case, you should just be embarrassed with yourself because you got the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys with seditious conspiracy, but not even Trump. What a joke. You said he was the leader. Didn't even charge him. And he's out free, walking around. On August 2nd, the government sent a proposed protective order for Trump. Trump's lawyers substantively responded on August 4th, the day Friday, with a different proposed protective order that they say did not, in the government's estimation, protect numerous sensitive material categories. And we're all sitting here going, what kind of sensitive categories? All right, grand jury materials, like what? Okay, we don't need the identities, but why can't we just have the grand jury transcripts? What did you present to them? Release all the transcripts. This is a public case, literally involving a presidential candidate. We should have every single transcript should just be put on the website right now for us to read. Why is it sealed? We should see, in the interest of transparency for these Democrats, why can't we see the transcripts? Put them up. Why is the government trying to seal all this stuff? And they also have sealed search warrant affidavits. Okay, so I can see like, yeah, we don't want to see the pictures of somebody's house who got raided by Jack Smith's team. I'm all in favor of that. I don't want privacy violated or anything that is, you know, birth dates and personal identifying information. None of that stuff should be publicized for us. But they can redact every single person on the grand jury and they can give us all the transcripts. The defense has the transcripts, or we'll get access to the transcripts. So why can't we see it? Why can't we publish these things? They want it silenced. The grand jury's already done. They've already presented. Okay, it's over, done and closed. He's been indicted. So why can't we see? Let us make sure the indictment was legitimate or not. And they also don't want us to see the search warrant affidavits, which are the written documents that the agents will sign, right? They'll fill out the thing. Hi, I'm FBI agent Loserville. I've been employed for 2 months. And here's my training, 3 weeks in academy, whatever. And I've executed this. I hate the president. All right. So they file this affidavit. Can we read that so that we can see whether or not It's legitimate. The same day the government is trying to seal that stuff up, the government drafted a new proposed protective order. So they send that over to Trump's team. Trump says, no, thanks. They send another one back. They say, well, this doesn't include what we want it to include. So they send another one back. Then they want to reach a compromise. They modeled it on one that Carl Nichols, which is another DC judge, that he modeled when he gave it to defense counsel, noting that the government wanted to file this one today. In response, Trump's team says they wanted to note that they did not have adequate time to confer. So Trump's team says, we don't have enough time to sit down and go through all this stuff with you. So they just went to a competing court from a different defendant. Now, this is why these people are so nuts. They're going to keep trying to make this case as though Trump is just a regular, ordinary defendant. So I don't know what recent criminal case they got this from. Whoever this is, like they went, they're like, well, this sort of matches this outfit. This is a hat. We need a hat. This is a hat, right? Here's my question for the government. Was this person in the Judge Nichols case, was he a former president also running for the presidency? Answer, no, he wasn't. Probably. So they needed more time to confer. So in other words, it's an invalid comparison. It's a ridiculous comparison. So the government says, this is Jack Smith, Joe Biden, Merrick Garland speaking. The government seeks to provide the defendant, Trump, with discovery as soon as possible because we want to go to trial now, including certain discovery to which Trump is not entitled to at this stage of the proceedings. The attached order would allow the government to do that while also protecting a large amount of sensitive and confidential material contained within the first prepared production that we'll send as soon as the court issues an order. Such materials include, but are not limited to, personally identifying information, which again, you can protect all of that. I'm fine with that. Rule 6 materials, subpoena returns, witness testimony. Okay, yeah, all of this I want. Subpoenas, witness testimony, exhibits presented to the grand jury, materials obtained through sealed search warrants. Why are they sealed? The case has been filed. Unseal them. Let us see them. Sealed orders obtained by the government's filter team. Recordings, transcripts, interviews, related exhibits of witness interviews. Okay. And sensitive materials obtained from other government entities. Like what? There's no UFO files here. There's no classified documents here. Is it the tens of thousands of hours of Capitol Hill footage, or what do they have? We'd like to see it all. Are they going to say it's because of security concerns? They say the court may, for good cause, enter a protective order governing or restricting discovery. Yes, we know they can. Here, good cause exists because the issuance of the government's proposed order would, expedite the flow of discovery in this case, which as a defendant, we don't give a crap about right now. Like, we're going to get the discovery one way or the other, but expediting it, okay, nobody cares. We don't want this trial to happen before the election anyways. So that's not a benefit for us. What is a benefit is going through the time so that we can prepare to respond to protective order requests and things like that. It's not about speed. That's not a defense interest. Give Trump prompt access to a large portion of discovery that he ultimately will receive. Again, right, exactly my point. He's going to get it at some point. So expediting it is not a valid reason to just enter it and then have Trump respond. And to protect the highly sensitive categories of the materials described above, which I would contest almost every one of those, maybe except the PII stuff. The government's proposed order is consistent with other orders commonly used by the district and is not overly restrictive. It allows Trump prompt and effective use of discovery materials in connection with his defense, meaning when they say this, it means his literal criminal defense in the court of law, not outside the court of law, not in the court of public opinion. He can't talk about any of that stuff if he's limited by the order, including showing materials to witnesses who also agree to abide by the order's terms. So not only can Trump and his people not talk about it, but anybody he shows can't talk about it. All the proposed order seeks to prevent, here is what they say, look, the improper dissemination or the use of discovery materials, including to the public. So our rotten, DOJ that is institutionally corrupt, they are saying that the public might get access to the discovery materials, and they don't want that to happen. Such a restriction is important because Trump has previously issued public statements in this case on social media, here it comes, about witnesses, judges, and attorneys, and others associated with legal matters pending against him. And in recent days, regarding this case, Trump has issued multiple posts that we went through, either specifically or by implication, including the following, which he posted just hours ago. All right, so you've got some DOJ obsessives who, they've been salivating over Trump every morning, waking up. They probably have, like the Mark Elias guys out there. They've got the Donald Trump chew toys for their dogs and stuff. They kind of go wild with it. So he's sitting there, every single Trump truth, he's like, oh, this one's the one. Oh, this one's the one. Oh, this one's the one for my protective order. They're just waiting for it. What's Trump going to say that we can use to shut him up? And then booms, he drops this one. If you go after me, I'm coming after you, which has been just, I think, a truth that we've been talking about here for a long time. I mean, it would be like psycho if he didn't do that. If the DOJ is going to be weaponized and used against political opponents, that's the whole point of the game, is to capture the flag, become the king of the castle. So then you can use the DOJ to go after your political opponents. It's like obvious. If we're going to go into a banana republic, third world dictatorship type of structure, this is how it's going to go. I mean, this is what we want. And I'd rather have our guy in there, going against these people, because at least it's not them. This is how it's going to go. And so they're upset about it. And like, hey guys, this is what you caused all of this. Hello. They say, if Trump were to begin issuing public posts using details, for example, of grand jury transcripts, which I would love to see, so we could see how the whole indictment was corruptly executed in the first place. And they really don't want us to see that at all. For example, if Trump, it's like a dream come true. Trump just starts posting the transcripts and all the discovery. Hey, this one. He said, here's what they say. It could have a harmful, chilling effect on witnesses, right? So remember, when we were going back to those scales, what do they say? Relative to Trump's free speech, they say, no. No, it's a chilling effect. It could have a harmful, chilling effect. It could be a very big problem for other witnesses, or it could adversely affect the fair administration of justice, right? Meaning that Trump needs to be shut up, and all of these other issues, free speech, political speech, his right to his defense, his right to criticize the prosecutorial agencies that are going after him because of his status as a candidate, all should go out the window, because it might theoretically impact adversely the administration of justice. Well, look, nobody thinks you guys are administering really anything. You are prosecuting, executing, and nobody thinks this is justice either. So you call it justice. Half the country calls it injustice. And they want him to not speak about it. They say the government's proposed order provides that either party can seek to modify this at any time. So just grant it our way first, and you can undo it if they don't like it. Meaning that Trump is in a better position now. This is actually good for Trump. If he receives discovery now rather than getting no discovery at all. So he actually is so dumb. His defense is so dumb that they don't know that this order is good for them, because, Judge, if you grant it, then we can show up and just dump this all in their front yard. And then they can't do anything with it because you granted our order, not theirs. If the court issues the government's proposed order without awaiting a responsive brief from Trump, Trump will be free to review the discovery that the government will promptly produce, and they can seek any modifications that they want. And once in possession of this detailed discovery, then Trump's going to be in a better position to assess and justify whether to seek a modification of the order at all. Molly Gaston. Gaston. Oh, Gaston. Oh, that's typical. Yeah, that guy. So she's acting like she's doing a big favor for all of us here. Oh no, they're so stupid over there at the defense attorney's offices that they don't even know how good this is for them. And as soon as you grant exactly what we want, Judge, that limits them, then we'll just go ahead and dump it on their doorstep. Actually, a disgusting motion that they would even file that. And the judge wouldn't go that far to actually grant it. But here was the text, grant it without Trump's response. Trump and his team did respond. But here is the actual order that the government is proposing. 5 pages. They say this is what Trump should be limited on. This order does not apply to records that are publicly available independent of the government. Okay, great. All materials provided by the government, by Biden and Mayor, shall be subject to this order and may only be used solely in connection with the defense of this case, for no other purpose, without further order of this court. So a True Social post, they'll say, is not in connection with this case. They want Trump and Trump's lawyer to not disclose the materials to anybody other than people working with the defense. Trump and his lawyers shall not copy or reproduce the materials in any way. They shall not disclose notes or records to anybody other than if you're involved in the case, if you're a witness, defense counsel, expert witness, any of those things. After the conclusion of this case, the materials shall be destroyed. All materials after this case is over, after they put Trump through a fake sham show trial, shall be destroyed. Everything goes back to the United States. Gone. The restrictions set forth in this order do not apply to documents that are part of the public record. Here are the sensitive materials. Materials containing personally identifying information, which is very broad, right? I would say, how about we get all of that redacted? Sure, like we won't release any materials containing PII with the PII. We'll redact all the PII and then the information contained therein. We're free to do with whatever we want. We're the defense. Rule 6, materials. Grand jury subpoenas, witness testimony, and exhibits. This stuff is critical. We would love to see this. In some criminal cases, remember, people are charged through a criminal complaint. And when we go through criminal complaint cases, we often will see an FBI agent says, I'm Special Agent so-and-so. They draft it up and they filed the criminal complaint, almost like getting a ticket. The grand jury is another way to bring criminal charges against somebody. And it's like a miniature trial that only happens with the government. There's a presentation that takes place there. And we want to see who testified and what the exhibits are and what was said. They don't want Trump to release any of it. Materials obtained through sealed search warrants, again, and sealed orders obtained by the government's filter team. They don't want recordings, transcripts, or any exhibits related to witness interviews or materials that came from other governmental entities. All silenced. And so let's say, for example, Trump and his people, they file a records request or they file a demand for supplemental discovery and it goes over to, Federal Elections Commission or something like that. And the Federal Election Commission returns some documents back and the documents implicate some problems in the election or something, right? Trump's going to say, I got to show everybody that stuff. I need to bring that out to everybody's attention. They don't want that to happen. They want all of this stuff sealed. The government shall indicate to Trump's lawyers in discovery whether these are called sensitive materials along with the disclosure. They say unless the government grants permission, no sensitive materials may be disclosed to anybody other than Trump, Trump's lawyers, and people on the defense team. Look at this. So similarly, any sensitive materials must be maintained and in control of the lawyers. Lawyers may show sensitive materials to Trump as necessary to assist in the preparation of the defense, but the lawyers may not give Trump a copy of the documents. No copies to Trump. And if the lawyers do show the sensitive materials to Trump, the lawyers may not allow Trump to write down any personally identifiable information. And if Trump does take notes, the lawyers must inspect Trump's notes. You must look at his notebook to ensure that Trump has not copied down the info. So empty out your pockets there, Donald. No, empty it out. Did you have any phone numbers written in there? The parties may include designated sensitive materials in any public filings. No party shall disclose unredacted sensitive materials in open court. Parties can modify this. And this is what they want the judge to sign. This is from Judge Tanya Chutkan. And this is the proposed order. Now, there was a back and forth on this. Trump's team has ultimately responded. But Trump's team originally asked for an extension. They said, oh my gosh, Judge, at 6 p.m. on a Friday, the government emailed its proposed order. They said it's basically take it or leave it. Then they filed this motion. That morning, the court entered a minute order saying that we have to respond by August 7th at 5 p.m. So they enter a motion in on a Friday. You say we've got by Monday at 5 to respond, and they just give you this motion? To make sure we've got time to prepare, we asked this court to give us 3 additional days to allow us to respond by the 10th. This is substantially less time, by the way, than is provided for in your local court rules. Your rules say 14 days to respond to motions. They file on Friday, we get 2 weeks, 14 days. And that will enable Trump to assess what's going on here. And also, a brief extension, by the way, would give us time to meaningfully confer. We don't need the court to get involved in this. Discovery is going to be extensive and complex. It's why we should be cooperative. Requiring a Monday response on a Friday evening forecloses the possibility of an agreement, and this encourages improper tactics by the government in the future, dropping Friday night motions. They say Trump is prepared to confer in good faith. But we want just 3 more days, Judge. That's it. Consistent with the local rules. The rules say 14 days. And if we can't agree after those additional days, then it would be appropriate to file and have a hearing on this. Pro hoc vice pending for Todd Blanche, Trump's lawyer, along with John Lauro, another one of Trump's lawyers. And then they submitted a bunch of the different exhibits. I think these are the emails. Thanks for the email suggesting a meet and confer at 6 p.m. on a Friday, though. That's not realistic. We're going to suggest that we brief these issues and request oral argument. Please note that we did not have adequate time to prefer. And so you can see the emails here. And again, all these documents are on the mind map, which you can sign up for at robertgovea.com if you'd like to read ahead further. But what ended up happening is the government opposed the motion for the extension of time. They said, you don't need any more time. And the judge ultimately agreed. And the judge issued an order where she said all of that was denied. She said, all right, nope, we're holding fast. 5 p.m., August 7th deadline. Says Trump shall file a response. The request for an extension is denied. If you've got a problem with the proposed order, let us know in your filing. And Trump's team submitted that filing. Here's what it looks like. 29 pages. Let's see what it says. From Donald Trump's team, they say this is the response to the request for a protective order. The rules say the court can't issue protective orders that limit discovery materials when there are particularized safety and security concerns. Instead of hewing to this narrow framework, the government requests the court strict all documents produced by the government, all of them, regardless of the sensitivity, contrary to the law and to Trump's First Amendment rights. To resolve this issue, Trump respectfully requests you adopt our red lines, our changes, which narrows the proposed order to shield only the genuinely sensitive materials from the public view. This more measured approach is consistent with other cases and balances the government's claim with expediting discovery with the rights of Donald Trump. We have the balancing test. Going quickly is not an interest to the defense unless the defense is interested in going quickly. Trump's team says additionally, the red lines, the changes to the order, resolve other issues. And to the extent that the court overrules Trump's objection to restricting the use of non-sensitive documents, we attach an alternative red line as well. So here are their arguments. They say the proposed order that the government dumped out is overbroad. In a trial about First Amendment rights, the government seeks to restrict those rights. And it does so against its administration's primary political opponent during an election season in which the administration, prominent party members, and media allies have literally campaigned on the indictment and proliferated its false allegations. Biden has also capitalized on the indictment, posting a thinly veiled reference to his administration's prosecution of President Trump just hours before the arraignment. And if Donald Trump can post stuff on Truth and Joe Biden can post stuff on Truth, oh, maybe he should be indicted. A cup of Joe never tasted better. And this was his bizarre dark roast meme. And if you play it, he takes a sip. And it looks like he's about to keel over when he's trying to drink it. So they say that there was another article and there's been other hints that Joe Biden wants to prosecute Trump. They said, indeed, President Biden promised from the outset that his administration would ensure Trump, quote, does not become the next president again. Said that November 9, 2022. Does not become the next president again. The Biden DOJ also waited 2.5 years to seek this indictment. So against this backdrop, the government, Biden DOJ, requests that this court assume the role of a censor and impose content-based regulations on President Trump's political speech that would forbid him from publicly discussing or disclosing all non-public documents produced by the government, including both purportedly sensitive materials and non-sensitive, potentially exculpatory documents, documents that might show Trump is innocent. Even if they disclose this big batch of documents and Trump says, oh, perfect. Here in this discovery, you think this is the key to your case? Well, I've got this other discovery in my document that totally shatters that. And so how about I can talk about both of these things? Nope. Sorry. You can only talk about it in trial. And trial would be locked down, so we can't even see what's going on there. And the judge would then use motions in limine to keep out all of the problematic stuff so that it would never come in anyways. So they're trying to force field this whole thing. Trump's lawyer says this untargeted method offends both the First Amendment, which actually requires a compelling government interest that is narrowly tailored to justify it. But it also has problems with the First Amendment. It says the government's attempt to restrain Trump, if they want to do this, they must have a compelling reason for the restraint. Here, Trump does not contest the government's interest in restricting some of the documents it must produce. However, the need to protect that information does not require a blanket gag order over all documents produced by the government. Rather, the court can and should limit its protective order to genuinely sensitive materials, the least restrictive remedy possible. We should see as much of this case as we humanly can, and the government is seeking to limit it. Why? The government does not and cannot explain why this protocol would be insufficient. It can easily designate documents it thinks are sensitive. Apparently, it's already done that. And this district, the local rules, doesn't regularly prevent the disclosure of these types of documents. The court recognizes that a protective order should be limited to documents that implicate the safety of witnesses, dangers of perjury, witness intimidation, and information vital to national security. Nobody's arguing about any of that. But here, the government does not explain how the existence of some potentially sensitive materials are good cause for the closure of all non-public material it produces. Apparently, they've already identified stuff that is sensitive. And so accordingly, Trump asks you adopt our proposed order. They say Trump has not had much time to prepare this. Due to the extraordinarily limited time Trump has had to prepare this response, we have not been able to talk to them about this. The government declined a cooperative approach. They refuse any real-time feedback about this. Just hours before our deadline, the government notified Trump's lawyers that it would oppose most of our revisions. Neat. Although time limitations prevent us from fully explicating every proposed edit. Here are some of the changes. They want to change the definition of authorized persons, who's on the team, who's employed. Defense counsel may choose to bring on volunteer attorneys, paid employment arrangements, interns, and other things. So they propose this red line, right? They're just going to change that. I'm not going to read all the details on there. Definition of sensitive materials. What is sensitive or not? The government declines without comment to conspicuously mark the documents it deems sensitive. They don't want to fight over it. They just want to call it sensitive and then not allow anything to get out. They talk about some of the procedures, and you can see we get near the end here into the conclusion. Signed off by John Lauro, Todd Blanche. They say, without any reason to oppose sealing, the government has no reason to seal this stuff. And so please adopt our red lines, adopt our protective order. And they basically want the government to be much more narrowly tailored. You see this just one simple change here. Sensitive materials. They want it to go from all old is all materials to now sensitive materials which are designated in accordance with paragraph 8. All right. So if you were to put these two things on a spectrum, it would go from everything that you even think about is protected to only the things that are listed in paragraph 8 that you say are sensitive, that you justify are sensitive material, are limited on the completely other end. Now, the judge is going to come back out and she's going to issue some sort of order on this. You can see here the rest of the red lines. They just literally modified the government's order and they're making notes to the judge. The government said, we don't have any objections to this edit. That's the only one. They object to everything else. So they just object away. Here, the government has, okay, this one too, we got two now, A2, and this one, we got a couple things. They're okay with that change, but the rest of everything's got to go. So this is now the request for the protective order. Of course, Judge Chutkan will be ultimately issuing a ruling on it. And of course, we'll see what that looks like and review the final order. But here is the author of the motion himself. This is John Lauro over on CNN having this interview and this exchange with Dana Bash talking about the Trump prosecution and the January 6th case.
This weekend, the judge rejected your request for 3 more days to consider the special counsel's proposed rules for how to handle evidence. The proposed protective order that would let Trump use some sensitive information, but not take that information with him. Will you agree to that?
Well, first of all, this protective order that's being suggested by the Biden administration is an effort to keep from the press important non-sensitive information that the Biden administration has that may speak to
This isn't by the Biden
innocence
administration. This is by the
President
Special
Trump.
Independent Counsel.
And
No, it's not. No, it's not.
No, here for this reason, no. The independent counsel, it's not independent, it's special counsel.
And by the way, there's a New York Times article where Joe Biden says to Merrick Garland, stop clowning around and just do it already.
Has to get the approval of Merrick Garland in order to go forward. Joe Biden said in November 2022 that he wanted to see President Trump prosecuted and taken out of this race.
There's
so it
no,
is the Biden
I'm just going to stop you because there's no evidence
but the
that
bottom line is
Joe Biden is involved in this. And you're right, it's a special counsel. Let's just stick to the question. Do you believe that this is something that you'll agree to?
The point is that we will not agree to keeping information that's not sensitive from the press. The press and the American people in a campaign season have a right to know what the evidence is in this case, provided that this evidence is not protected otherwise.
Right.
So we're going to oppose it, as we have. But for whatever reason, these lawyers on the prosecution team want to keep that from the press.
Well, won't the evidence
and
come
I'm
out in
shocked,
trial
candidly,
anyway?
That the press, some of it will, not all of it. I'm shocked that the press isn't lined up objecting to this protective order, because not only is President Trump being attacked for his First Amendment rights, now these prosecutors are trying to impinge on the freedom of the press.
Okay, let's stick to, I appreciate you trying to stick up
what's
for us.
happening. I'm telling you.
I appreciate you trying to stick up for us, but let's talk about the actual
I'm telling you what's going on right
substance
now.
of what they were trying to do in the filing, which was
What?
try to make the point not only that they want to keep the discovery information, what the witnesses said, for the time being quiet, but also he made pretty clear, the special counsel, that the idea that the former president is calling him deranged and mentally ill is something that maybe shouldn't be happening. So let me ask you, as his attorney in this criminal case, do you want your client to stop speaking publicly like this?
Nah.
Using terms like that.
This case was brought by the Biden administration in the middle of a political campaign, and with the realization that people are out there campaigning for office. I'm not involved in the campaign. I'm involved in representing.
Totally understand.
Mr.
You're
Trump
not
in
his
a criminal
campaign
proceeding.
manager.
But
You are his lawyer. As his lawyer, would you want a client to say things like this about the special counsel?
One thing that
He is a presidential candidate. One of the top issues in this country, a weaponized, partisan, politicized DOJ that is being used by Joe Biden in order to go after his political opponents. As a person who is campaigning, he has no choice but to talk about that. The fact that they made him a criminal defendant and the subject of that very issue, that's on them. But that doesn't mean he has to be silenced now just because there's some overlap with the criminal case that Joe Biden brought. You're telling me that we want to live in a country where your political opponent can prosecute their opponent, prosecute you, and you can't even say anything about it? Not only can they prosecute you, but they can shut you up too. So they can raid your house, they can lock you up, they can detain you. And if you even challenge it, now you're talking about the case, and that's too harmful to the case. And if you run for the presidency, you can't talk about the thing they've done to you, lest you jeopardize the fair administration of justice.
One thing that we are going to do is fight this very, very unusual, outside of the bounds, criminal prosecution of First Amendment rights vigorously in court. My focus is on addressing the issues. One of the issues that the Biden administration will have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt is that Donald Trump had corrupt intent, had criminal intent when he protested the results of the 2020 election. That's core freedom of speech. That's
okay,
core
let's talk
political
about this.
speech,
You've talked
which
about
is
freedom of
protected
speech.
under our Constitution.
You've talked about freedom of speech a lot. I want you to listen to what Donald Trump's own former Attorney General said about that argument.
Oh, Bill.
I really don't think that's a valid argument. He can say whatever he wants. He can even lie. He can even tell people that the election was stolen when he knew better. Free speech doesn't give you
He just said that you can do that?
the right to engage in a fraudulent conspiracy.
Wait a minute. That's a weird set of clips. He almost is contradicting himself, no?
I really don't think that's a valid argument. He can say whatever he wants. He can even lie. He can even tell people that
he didn't even do that.
The election was stolen when he knew better. Free speech doesn't give you the right to engage in a fraudulent conspiracy.
But you need to know what that act is. That was a weird set of clips. I don't know why they clipped those. Almost 3 separate clips. Weird.
Your response?
Well, first of all, there was no fraudulent conspiracy. That's part of the reality of the defense. What President Trump was entitled to do, and what Mr. Barr misses, and I'm not sure he's read all the cases, but when it comes to political speech, you can not only advocate for a position, but you can take action, you can petition, you can ask even your vice president to pause the vote for a period of time in order to allow the states to recertify.
But you can't break the law, which is what this indictment alleges.
What was it?
It alleges that he caused actions like approving fake.
What was it?
I'll tell you what the indictment.
What was that?
I'll tell you what the indictment says. The indictment says
Read it.
that he attempted to cause actions like approving fake electors, opening sham fraud investigations, and obstructing the certification of the election. Whether he can prove that, that's going to happen in the trial. I'm just saying what's in the indictment.
Yeah, but right, and let me take the first thing, the question about electors, okay? Alternate electors are used in every 4-year cycles, okay? The Senate parliamentarian acknowledged to Vice President Pence that they always receive protest alternate electors. None of those electors were counted. Vice President Pence was completely aware of the nature of the
They weren't
protest,
counted because Mike Pence rejected this scheme. That's why they weren't counted.
Absolutely, and that's how of course, and that's how the political process works.
And they changed it after the fact. So remember that the Congressional Research Service, prior to 2020, they had several documents that we've gone through here many times now at this point that say that there are alternative electoral issues and what happens. There's 12 pages or whatever the big document is about how it is complicated. Then they changed the rules with the Electoral Count Reform Act of 2022 to tighten it up. Now, Mike Pence is solely ministerial. Okay, Congress passed it. Joe Biden signed it into law. But prior to 2022, that wasn't the case. Now, just because nobody has done that before doesn't mean it's illegal or insurrectionary. Just means nobody's tried it before. Guess what? It's Donald Trump. What do you expect? But Dana is having a difficult time. She's very agitated. I don't know what she's so upset about here.
There was no defrauding. There was no trickery. There was no deceit.
Because if Mike Pence had said yes, then that's exactly what would have happened.
No, because
if Mike Pence would have said yes, what would have happened, Dana? Would it have gone? Trump would have just been president, I guess, for another 4 years? That's not how it worked at all. I think they literally think Mike Pence would have just said, Daddy's in charge. Big Mike's here. Trump's the president. Tear up all the electoral votes or something like that. And then that's the end of the country. It's like game over. Everybody just says, well, I guess that's it. I guess Trump for life, I guess. It's ridiculous. Pence was going to say, I've got 2 slates of electors. This one appears to be as legitimate. This one appears to be legitimate. I can't tell. It goes back to the House. I can't make a decision. You guys decide. Figure it out. Declare it in the House. Go do your investigation. Come back to me when you've got something to say. So I only have 1 slate. Okay, he could have done that, and he didn't do it. And now he says that it's asking him to overturn the Constitution and all of that stuff. No, that's why they had to plug the hole after the fact.
And that's only one.
Because thankfully, with freedom of the press, you have to let me finish, though, because, No, but you asked me a question, and I hope you can let me finish, because the government alleges deceit or trickery, and all of this played out in the open. It's all free speech. There was a Supreme Court decision, Hammerschmidt, which is right on point, that says when you're exercising free speech, you're not engaging in a fraud on the government. And that's what, unfortunately, most people don't understand.
That's just one example
it's
of
very
the
political.
actions. That's just one example of the actions in this indictment.
But you're entitled.
And this is a long list. That
What is that? Her notes? Are those her CNN producer notes? What does that say? Oh. They typed up bullet points for these bonehead anchors. Look. Oh my gosh. They typed up bullet points. It says, list of all actions, something Trump on something, okay? And it's like bullet points. It looks like Joe Biden's note cards. Hey, you sit here. All right, when Trump's lawyer comes on here, just run down this list of all the actions that he took. And I would love to read that, because I'm going to guess a lot of those say Trump called and asked, Trump questioned, or Trump, inquired, or Trump did something, or Trump spoke about that, whatever it is. It's all speech, all protected behavior. And so she's got a nice
long list that we've compiled from the indictment. I mean, it's more than a dozen, not speech, actions that the former president allegedly took.
Post it.
Where do I even start?
Tell me.
Asking the Arizona Speaker to interfere with ascertaining Arizona's electors. The Justice Department to conduct
a speech.
Read the next one.
But any alleged
is speech.
But any alleged, almost all of.
Oh, he's laughing too. Okay, so Dana, look, she goes to read a second one and she shuts up. He busted her so badly. We couldn't even see what that was, what's on the list. But he says to her, give me one. She reads one, asking the Arizona Senate Rusty Bowers. It goes, read me another one. Watch, she starts to read the next one, and then he cuts her off, or she stops herself, because it probably says asked.
Pertaining Arizona's electors. The Justice Department to
conduct a speech.
Oh!
But any alleged
is speech.
But any alleged almost all alleged criminal
notes.
Activity has to do with using words and his speech.
No,
and that's listen.
What you don't
this is obviously the defense that you're going to use, and it will be fascinating to see how it works out in a court of law. I want to move on to another issue.
I got to tell you though. But you make an interesting point, because you're saying that asking is action. No, asking is aspirational. Asking is not action. It's core free speech. The press should be defending free speech in this case.
Let's talk about something else that you've repeatedly said.
No, we don't want to protect free speech. We hate Trump, man, and we just want him gone. So good, man. Hey, Dana, post your notes on Twitter. Drop those things on Twitter so we can see them, all right? Hey, our mind map's available, robertgovea.com. You can go see all my notes. They're all right here. robertgovea.com, you can see everything. But for some reason, they don't want us to see anything. They don't want us to see the evidence of this case. They don't want Trump to talk about it. They want him silenced. They want all of us silenced and censored, so that they can continue to prosecute their political enemies under the dark of night without anybody exposing their partisan corrupt hackery. But of course, we will do that as we shine our spotlight here, my friends. Thank you for subscribing and following along as we continue to cover this case. We'll see you as it evolves. Now, that was Washington, D.C., but we're not done. We got to turn our attention to what's going on over in Florida. A little bit of a different ballgame over there in Florida. Judge Aileen Cannon, the Trump judge in Florida, is now ordering Jack Smith to explain himself. This is going to come about through a brief that she has asked the defense to file. And I want to go through this in detail, because we have this interesting little conundrum happening, or scam, if you want to put it that way. Jack Smith now has 2 criminal cases being brought against Donald Trump, one in Washington, D.C., the January 6th case, the other in Florida, the classified documents case. And now Judge Cannon is ordering him to explain himself. She wants to know why he is seemingly using a Washington, D.C. grand jury in Florida. Why is he going outside of the Florida jurisdiction to a different location to get info in the Florida case? It's a big problem. Now, we know that there was a superseding indictment in this matter. Let's take a quick look at the docket so I can show you exactly what this prosecution's team is doing. Look at this. August 7th, filed under seal, restricted, sealed. We have another filing. System entry, August 2nd, restricted, sealed until further notice. Another one, August 2nd, docket entry, 95, restricted, sealed until further notice. Now, you could argue here in this case, unlike the January 6th case, that this is a classified documents matter. And so maybe there are some national security secrets and some things do have to be kept secret. But other things don't. It's kind of just like being in possession of some items. The possession of the items, what the items are about, okay, I can see why you might want to keep some of those things under lock and key. But everything else about the witnesses, the transportation, most of this are private citizens who are not government officials. And we should be able to see a lot of this. So why is Jack Smith, again, filing under seal? They don't want us to see what they are doing here. And so Judge Aileen Cannon has actually called them out on this. You see this entered August 7th. An order striking the sealed filings and ordering briefings. She says, what the heck are you doing here? You just keep filing these sealed motions. And I want to see them now exposed. And I need an explanation from you. And so here we're going to go through the order that is asking Jack Smith to explain himself after the defense files their briefing. We'll also look at the Speedy trial report and the discovery update before we take a look at this very interesting article from the Wall Street Journal that explains that Jack Smith might be this esteemed prosecutor, but he's also somebody who loses. This is the order from Jack Smith coming out of Florida for Jack Smith by Judge Aileen Cannon. Short order, 2 pages. West Palm Beach. The case is United States of America versus Donald Trump, Walt Nauta, and the newest addition, which is Carlos de Oliveira. And we know that we have now 3 co-defendants, and we've got 2 indictments. We had the original indictment and a superseding indictment. And the superseding indictment has an arraignment, which is scheduled for the 10th of this month, as is indicated here. Trump and Walt, they will have an arraignment on August 10th, but my understanding is that their presences will be waived. So we don't expect Trump to show up for that proceeding. Here's what the judge says. This is Judge Cannon, and she is just filing this on her own. It's coming out of basically nowhere. These sealed filings from Jack Smith keep hitting her docket. And she says, all right, look. All right, this matter comes before the court on special counsel's motion for a hearing. Here's what I'm ordering. And they're asking for a hearing in their filings 95 and 96, both of which are sealed. She says, all right, well, you filed that stuff under seal, but I'm talking about it in public. She said that Jack Smith is moving for a Garcia hearing, which is a hearing that's going to inquire about potential conflicts of interest that may arise from Stanley Woodward, the attorney's prior representation to his clients. So they're trying to get Walt's lawyer booted from this case or something. They're saying that Stanley Woodward, the lawyer representing Walt, also represents 3 individuals the government may call to testify at the trial. So he's got too many co-defendants. The government wants to either prosecute them or call them. Simultaneously, Jack filed another motion under seal, which is called a supplement. So Jack's trying to be sneaky about these 2 filings. One is to inquire about Stanley Woodward, whether he has any conflicts or whether there's any problems with him representing multiple people. The other one is a supplement to, quote, facilitate the court's inquiry about something. Judge says this, Jack Smith states in conclusory terms that the supplement should, quote, be sealed from public view to, quote, comport with grand jury secrecy. But the motion for leave and the supplement plainly fail to satisfy the burden of establishing sufficient legal or factual basis to warrant the sealing of the motion. Now, in general, grand jury proceedings are secret, okay? And the default rule is that their proceedings, transcripts, everything is sealed, and that you don't get access to that, right? And it's a very strict process. So you do, check out transcripts, check them back in oftentimes, and you keep it sealed so that everybody's, nice and protected. Now, in a case of national importance like this, I would like to see it all publicized for all of us. And here what they're saying is that basically everything is comporting with grand jury secrecy. So they want it sealed, but the judge says, but what is the supplement? Why does that also have to be sealed? Like maybe just the specific grand jury proceeding transcripts and things. But what is this supplement? It says, okay, well, the special counsel and their motion for leave to file under seal is denied. You are not filing Record 95 under seal. Sorry, Jack. The clerk is directed to strike from the docket entries 95 and 96, rewrite those. And here's where we get the explanation. This is curious. Now, the judge is saying that Walt Nauta, who is the co-defendant represented by Stanley Woodward, says that your lawyer shall respond to the motion that was filed under seal requesting a Garcia hearing to talk about these conflicts. And when you respond to that motion, Stanley Woodward, your response shall address the following: the legal propriety of using an out-of-district grand jury proceeding, also known as DC. We're in Florida, remember. Why you're using a DC grand jury to continue to investigate and or to seek post-indictment hearings on matters pertinent to the instant indicted matter in this district. Why are you going to DC to talk about things that are happening in Florida? And they're asking for a hearing on this because Stanley Woodward is representing these other people, or had, or is currently representing them in the trial of Walt. The special counsel shall respond to that discussion. So Jack Smith is going to have to explain himself. Hey, is it okay? The judge is just asking questions. Hey, defense attorney, I'm just curious. I'm curious if you know the answer to this, Trump's defense and Walt's defense. Is it okay if Jack Smith goes out of my district and investigates your people out of my district? Let me know about that. And then Jack, you can let me know what your response is. Says the remaining defendants like Trump and Carlos, you may but are not required to file your own briefs related to the grand jury issue here. Briefs are due by August 17th. Done and ordered by Judge Aileen Cannon. So absolutely love this. Jack, you're going to have to explain to us why you are using your favored DC judges in your favored jurisdiction, where it's rabid 92% Democrats and prolific anti-Trumpers who actually went and sat in on his arraignment, his initial appearance in federal court in DC, to do business in my jurisdiction. Is that appropriate in any way, shape, or form? And so that request is going to go out. And Trump's people will respond, and the government will respond, and we'll see what they say. So very interesting filing from the judge. Not taking any grief. Stop filing your stuff under seal unless there's good cause, and explain why you're doing this. Amazing. Now, the government explained a couple other things. They did explain in a very brief discovery filing an update. They say the United States of America, in this filing that is 4 pages submitted on the 31st, they give us a quick update. We'll fast forward through it. They say on July 31st, the government produced a third production of unclassified discovery. So we still don't have a classified batch. The production included CCTV footage, location data, pursuant to a search warrant, memorialization of witness interviews, and grand jury transcripts. Good. To facilitate the review, the government also identified key excerpts from the CCTV footage. It had footage from Mar-a-Lago. There was also some more footage for the new defendant. They say the government responds to the very specific things. They say, we understand, we're aware of our continuing duty to disclose, and so on. All right. So they're just giving more batches of documents. The government also filed a speedy trial calculation report. And this one's also quite short, 4 pages filings here. In the first speedy trial report, the government reported that 5 non-excludable days had elapsed. The court disposed of that motion. We got an additional 10 days of excludable time for a total of 33 days of excludable time. Then the grand jury came back, and that restarted the clock for all the defendants. And so they're just letting the court know. If for any reason it begins to run after May 20th, 70 days remain before a trial must begin. May 20th, 2024 is the trial date. So a couple of small updates there, but the big update is that Jack Smith is going to have to be explaining this weird thing that he's doing, which is trying to play in 2 different jurisdictions. The Wall Street Journal had an interesting article. They say that Jack Smith might take on tough cases, but he doesn't always win. Smith led the Justice Department's public corruption unit more than a decade ago. Now he faces the most consequential case of his career, Trump. Some of his prosecutors were present when Trump pleaded not guilty. A lawyer who worked with Smith called it a classic Jack case, whatever that means. They say that this case is clearly on the frontier of American jurisprudence, using general and broad conspiracy and fraud theories to convict a politician for transgressions against the state. Some prosecutors also acknowledge the indictment doesn't clearly define which specific moments of Trump's actions became criminal. For example, it notes, it isn't a crime to falsely claim he won an election, but that Trump also pursued, quote, unlawful means of discounting legitimate votes and subverting the election results. It's like, okay, well, what did he do, though? Where the line stands isn't clear. Other experts say if the theories are novel, it's because so are the facts. Never before has a defeated president been accused of trying to block the peaceful transfer of power. Never before has a presidential candidate who's the leading candidate been prosecuted either. Trump has denied wrongdoings, calling him deranged. Smith's a registered independent. I wanted to see if there was any history here. Yeah. In 2014, Jack Smith, they brought charges against a Republican governor, Bob McDonnell. In that case, McDonnell accepted $175,000 worth of loans and gifts from a businessman. In an 8-0 decision, the Supreme Court overturned his conviction, saying that prosecutors needed to show an explicit quid pro quo between the gifts and the donos in order to sustain corruption charges. They brought the case under an aggressive theory, but the Supreme Court narrowed the scope. John Roberts saying the DOJ's theory of the case was so broad, it would criminalize ordinary constituent service and other conduct. Smith left the unit, and of course, he's back now at the DOJ. So it sounds like it is very much the same thing that he has done previously, trying to create this new novel theory to go wage war against Republican politicians. Previously, it was Bob McConnell. Now it's Donald Trump. But the question that Judge Cannon is going to be deciding is whether it is acceptable for him to be reaching outside of her court. He's alleging the crime happened in Florida. Why is he going back to D.C.? It's doing a runaround the judge. She can't manage the case. And now he's apparently filing Garcia hearing motions to talk about conflict of interests. We'll see what Jack has to say for himself when he responds. And lastly, my friends, we've got impeachment fever still slowly percolating around Congress. The Biden impeachment inquiry continues to march on. We've got some Congress people who continue to talk about it. We wonder if they're going to do anything or if it's going to lead to anything substantive, starting with the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, published this on Twitter, on the X, sorry, Elon, says when Joe Biden was running for president, he told the American public, one, he never talked business with Hunter. Obviously, that's not true. And his family never received a dime from China. And the goalposts have always continued to move. We've talked about, I think, like stage 5. No, we never talked about it. No, we never got paid for it. No, it was never direct deposited into his bank account. No. Joe Biden never actually crushed the crack and placed it in Hunter's crack pipe. He never did that directly. You know, it's like, what's going on here? Everything seems like it's changing. Both lies. House investigations revealed these facts, and Republicans will keep exposing the truth. That's from Kev. Let's see what he says.
He said we now find information that 16 out of 17 payments from Romania were provided to the Biden shell companies while he was vice president. When President Biden was running for office, he told the American public that he's never talked about business. He said his family has never received a dollar from China, which we now proved is not true. We now have some of the most credible whistleblowers. These 10-year IRS agents who have come forward said that the Biden family has been treated differently, that what Weiss has told us is different than what Garland and Weiss has told the public.
So somebody's lying.
And you're sitting here today where now you have found millions of foreign money, just what the 1023 alleges they did to Biden's family. Now we found that it has funneled through shell companies. If you're sitting in our position today, we would know none of this if Republicans had not taken the majority.
And now it's time to do something about it, Kev. So they're talking about impeachments, and the Democrats are very unhappy about it. They're trying out this new phrase. They keep impeaching Donald Trump, but for some reason, indicting Donald Trump. They've already tried the impeachment thing. Maybe they'll try to impeach him again. But the indictments aren't slowing down the Trump train. And so now they're trying this new talking point, calling the whole thing a cult. Here's Nancy.
Well, with all due respect to your question, this is frivolous. This is a diversionary tactic. They just can't stand the fact that we had a job report of over nearly 200,000 jobs today, that unemployment is 3.5%, that 18 straight months of unemployment being under 4%. We're talking about 13.4 million jobs created with Joe Biden in the White House and working with the congressional Democrats. They have to change the subject. And they have nothing to offer the American people in terms of jobs and the rest. They talk about it, but then they change the subject when it's time to deliver. I'm so proud of the Democrats and the Congress. We fully intend to take back the House the next time so we don't have to deal with the frivolity, the waste of time of the Congress for them to go down this path. It's really sad. I wish the Republican Party somebody would take it back.
Yeah.
That we'd have a real Republican Party. It's up to them to decide what it is, but it shouldn't be a cult.
Oh.
It shouldn't be a cult to somebody frivolous with the law and his puppets.
Is there anything in terms of procedure that House Democrats can do to stop?
Oh my gosh. It's just so funny to listen to these two people. It shouldn't be a cult. And then watch her response.
And his puppets.
Watch her response.
Is there anything in terms of procedure that House Democrats can do to stop?
She has no idea what to even ask. All right, this is a couple of knuckleheads just banging pots together. All right. So this is now Jamie Raskin, who says, maybe there's some problems with what Hunter and Joe did, but it pales in comparison to Trump, as per usual. The same talking points.
We're going to have a campaign that is going to be filled with a lot of whataboutisms. We know the Republicans are going to talk about Hunter Biden a lot here. And I know that a lot of the technical defense of the president with Hunter Biden is, well, the president didn't do anything wrong. But as Michael Kinsley once said, the real scandal in Washington is not what's illegal, it's what's legal. Should there be a code of conduct, something for family members here? Because the appearance of what Hunter Biden did is
kind of bad.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, we know that there is a lot of, influence in Washington that's based on people's family connections.
Last
and family
names
ties.
matter a lot on K Street, as you know.
And I have...
and Biden's been there for how long? How many years?
Repeatedly asked Chairman Comer on the Oversight Committee for us to look at that in a serious and substantive and methodical and nonpartisan way. But he's instead decided to just pursue the Hunter Biden thing as a one-off, as a way to score cheap political points. He doesn't want to talk about Jared Kushner, who brought back $2 billion, not million, $2 billion from Saudi Arabia to a company he created the day after the Trump administration ended, when there was still blood all over the Capitol.
There was still blood all over the Capitol? Did somebody take a machete or something? What happened in there? Is that really what happened? I mean, I know that the Capitol Police shot and killed an unarmed woman. Is that the blood he's talking about? Wonder what he could be talking about. Anyways, so as usual, they just deflect over to Trump. It's basically the only thing that they can say about this. Now we've got Byron Donalds and Marjorie Taylor Greene telling us a little bit more about the actual evidence that is out there now that they are working towards an impeachment inquiry. They're gaining a little bit of momentum, not quite there. Here's what they found.
He's the conduit to Joe Biden. There is a conference call, a business meeting at Cafe Milano where Joe Biden just shows up there with some of the Burisma executives. There's a board meeting in Dubai in 2015 where they look at Hunter Biden and say, hey, we need help from D.C., make the call. 3 months later, Shokin, the prosecutor in Ukraine, is fired, and Joe Biden brags about using or withholding $1 billion in U.S. aid, putting pressure on Ukraine to get the prosecutor fired. That's an open and shut damning case of bribery with respect to Joe Biden when he was vice president of the United States. You add in the fact that you have Yelena Baraturina, the widow of the Moscow mayor, how she paid $3.5 million to Hunter Biden and to Devin Archer, and as she's left off the sanctions list when Vladimir Putin invades Ukraine. This stuff stinks. There's some of the evidence, and we got a lot more.
Yeah, it does stink. Byron's right. Over to Marjorie.
So much of the evidence that is clear and present for anyone to see, the American people, the entire world. We have done a lot of work on the Oversight Committee, and in our investigations, not only have we uncovered a 1023 form outlining a $5 million bribe to then Vice President Joe Biden, but we also read thousands of pages of SARS reports in the Treasury Department showing clear proof of alleged crimes, and those were from bank reports. Then we subpoenaed bank statements, and we looked through the bank statements, and we have clear evidence of wire transfers from countries all over the world, China, Ukraine, Romania, going into these dozens of LLCs. And the Bidens aren't selling products. The Bidens aren't selling a service. You can't buy the Biden brand off the store on a shelf. But you know what? Powerful people and businesses all over the world were buying the Biden brand right through Hunter Biden. And Devin Archer confirmed that for us just this past week in his transcribed interview, saying that Joe Biden was on the phone more than 20 times with these business partners and that Joe Biden himself is the brand. And Maria, now we have a letter all the way back in 2011 from Joe Biden himself directly to Devin Archer, saying that he was sorry he didn't get to meet with him. He was with the president of China, and that he's happy that Hunter and Devin are working together. This is proof that Joe Biden has lied repeatedly to the American people, that not only has he always known about his son Hunter's business dealings, but he's been very involved to the level that he has been in conversations with his business partners many, many times.
Yeah, I saw the letter. Do we have a picture of that letter?
We do, and we covered that here. Now, Donald gets asked about this, and they asked Marjorie Taylor Greene about the possibility of impeachment and whether there's momentum in the House.
Joe Biden.
I don't think we're quite there yet, Maria, just to be honest with you, but I hope that the amount of overwhelming evidence that has come out and continues to pour out will convince those members that are still on the fence. And Maria, to be honest with you, I'm so thankful you're covering this issue, because it's been a full blackout from the mainstream media. And these members that still aren't quite there to be able to vote for an inquiry need to hear from their people back home in their districts. And that's why it's so important to let the American people know what's going on. Because here's the deal. When we have proof, overwhelming proof like we do now, that the president of the United States has lied repeatedly to the American people, that is exactly the evidence we need and that has been used in the past to open an impeachment inquiry. And a vote for an inquiry is not a vote for impeachment, but what it does is it allows Congress to have more power behind our subpoenas and move into an investigation revealing more evidence to see if articles of impeachment need to be considered. And I fully believe that that is exactly what Congress should start doing when we come back in September.
Okay.
All right, we'll see if they do anything about it. We know they're on a long August break, but there's still talk, murmurs afoot in the halls of Congress. Kevin McCarthy, Byron, Marjorie Taylor Greene, an inquiry might be a good first step. And then maybe next year we get an impeachment. So we'll continue to cover, my friends, and see if they do anything. Thank you for joining us and subscribing and following along as we do. We look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, that is it for us on the day. We covered some good ground. The Biden impeachment, the inquiry inching closer. We know that Jack Smith is going to have to explain himself and his dual use of grand juries. We also know that Donald Trump is trolling the DOJ and the D.C. Circuit Court and basically the whole Department of Justice at the same time. And we'll continue to see what happens there as this conflict hits ahead. But now, my friends, it's time to hear from you and to see what you have to say about this. One reminder before we jump into your comments and your questions, we've got a brand new website, robertgovea.com, where we have this reports section now. So if you want to gather the news, see everything that we're talking about, this is where every single thing that we talk about gets posted. And you can also read the summations of the videos, so you can see whether you want to watch the thing or not in this new edition, which is the report. And it is a nice place to stay up to date. You can also get access to the mind map. Everything we talked about, you can get if you sign up for the mind map, robertgovea.com, and get access to the daily newsletter to get a summary of the show in your inbox. After the show's over, it will be delivered so you never miss anything. robertgovea.com. But my friends, let's hear from you and let's see what our friends have to say in this lovely, lovely morning and this lovely, lovely day. We have, where did this, this one came in today from FMF Doc. FMF Doc is over on Locals. It says the following names of the Marines, Navy corpsmen, Army soldiers who were killed that day in Afghanistan. We've got a bunch of names on here. Pichardo, G, Hoover, Lopez, Page, Sanchez, Espinoza, Schmitz, McCollum, Marola, Nikoy, Maxton, Soviak, Naus. Rest in peace, my friends. Thank you for your service. And thank you, FMF Doc, for shouting them out. We had another one come in from our friend Voice of the People in the house, bringing in 5 new members from Voice of the People. Thank you, Voice. Who is coming in? We've got Some very nice welcomes. Elena D, Maria C, Gen X Boomers here. Silent Rage, Rye B, Karen O, Janine S, Red Pill Graphics. We got Saintly Beginnings and Lost Left Sock. Hope you find it. Is in the house. And thanks, Voice of the People. So we got 10 new members coming in. We do member-only morning streams, which means tomorrow we'll see you all. And hey, YouTube members, don't forget to join us on Telegram, which is where we will continue our chat after this show is over here. We'll have a little bit more of an after party. Join us on Telegram. The link is in the community tab section on YouTube. Hey, the most banned queen is joining us on Rumble. Thanks for joining us on Rumble. Shout out to our Rumble friends. Says, I doubt anything will come of the judge asking Smith to explain himself. Good logic had more faith in this judge than I do. The system is just too corrupt. Well, hang in there, the most banned queen. This judge is actually quite good. We've been following her for quite some time. Remember, we had the special counsel, the special master case. After Trump's residence was raided, Judge Aileen Cannon was the judge who was presiding over that process. And this judge appointed a special master because she did not trust the DOJ. She was ultimately reversed on it, but I think she has some questions about the DOJ for sure. So, you know, she might get reversed by the higher level courts, but I think she's on the right side in this case for sure. Much better than DC, that's for sure. Quantum Thug Life says, smash that like button for our boy, RG. Quantum Thug Life in the house, who's female, by the way, according to the traditional definition. Thank you, Quantum Thug Life, which is like so thugged out, but on an existential, multi-dimensional plane. I love it. We've got another one from 2012, Jameson. Jameson sent me a good email. Thank you for that, Jameson. I was flipping through that opinion, actually. It's a good one. We might have to hang on to that one. It says, my client made me late. I get no respect. The clients. They're a little bit more important than this show. This show is recorded. Clients are not. Nikki says, Rob, I tweeted you an adorable pledge of allegiance. What's up, Nikki? 5 months, baby. We're halfway to a baby. We'll be checking the X after the show, and we'll see what you got over there for us. Fred says, and thank you for that, Nikki. Thanks for being a member for 5 months. Woo. We got Fred says, Rob, verily I say unto you, this will end in a war. Well, I hope not. I mean, I don't want any war. I don't want any violence. I don't want any bloodshed. What I want is for, 49% of this country I think it's actually less than that. I want our fellow Americans to wake up one day and say, you guys were right. Free speech is incredible. The Constitution's amazing. I love the Bill of Rights. Let's pursue freedom together. That would be amazing. That's what I'm hoping for. We got Streets of Laredo. What's up, Streets of Laredo? No question on this, but the first super chat from you, our friend. Thank you so much for sending this in and being so generous and supporting what we do here. Streets of Laredo in the house. 2012 Jameson says, nobody is above the law. Except Hunter Biden. I mean, he is. Biden is. Joe Biden is. James Biden is. The DOJ also, no question. The DOJ is. Andy McCabe is. Michael Sussman is. Mark Elias is. James Baker is. Hillary Clinton is. All of those people are. We've got Catherine Rex says, anything CNN cannot be taken seriously at all. Well, I like to play them because they're so fun to dunk on, you know. Dana was like agitated. It's like, hey, look, I'm sorry that your little crap indictment didn't turn out to be what you thought it was. These people got bait and switched big time. I'd almost feel bad for them if they weren't so nuts. You know, they thought that Trump was going to get charged with seditious conspiracy and insurrection. And in Jack Smith's indictment, they can't even articulate what the actual criminal conduct was. What is it? What is it, Dana? Well, he asked Rusty Bowers. Oh, he made a phone call to ask Rusty Bowers to do his job in an election? No, well, having a hard time over there at CNN. A Bad Poet says, if Jack is crooked in Florida, could he lose his license in D.C.? Thanks for your work. I mean, so DC courts, you get licensed in the specific court. So yeah, theoretically they could, throw him out of the federal DC court. That's not, it's not going to happen. But certainly he could get in trouble. Like I was trying to think offhand of another example. Like there is another one of the Trump judges, one of the prosecutors on the Trump case out of Florida. I think she was demoted, but I don't think she lost her license or anything like that. They don't typically lose your license. Losing your license is a big ask. You got to really do some bad stuff. And here, for the people who sit on the agencies who would govern a license, they love what Jack Smith's doing. They're like, we'll give you another license. We'll give you 2 licenses. You're doing such a great job. Which is just a joke. Jameson says, I am going to try and record a video. You should, Jameson. Everybody should start a YouTube channel. Hope you like the court case of Counterman versus Colorado. That's the one Jameson sent me. You should review it and make a video. Subster says, it's so frustrating to watch CNN, MSNBC, etc. ask questions and never let the other side answer in full. It's kind of hilarious. It's like, what is you just asked him all of those questions and he's responding to you. Why are you so upset with his answer? He's like, you invited me. What am I even doing here? Operation Paperclip in the house with a nice Trump emoji. Good to see your profile pic. Operation Paperclip became a supporter. We'll see you in the after party and on the members only stream tomorrow. Hey, Tree Climber, thank you for that one with a nice hummingbird. Tree Climber in the house says small cost for excellent coverage. Trump 24 or bust. Good to see you, Tree. And thanks for that, my friend. We're going to continue on this case, man. We've got a long road ahead of us. And it's only going to get more exciting from here. So I'm grateful that you're joining us. And thanks for supporting us. Hey, it's Zulu in the house. What's up, Zulu? Really embracing the new X philosophy, I see. Bouncing around between those letters at the end of the alphabet. Good to see you, Zulu. Inviting in 10 new membos. Thank you very much. Zulu brought in Jennifer, Signs of Life. We got Pan-Seared Ribeyes joining us. Pie Squared. Mr. Otter Pockets. A Bad Poet. Dead Fish Cheese Spread. Oh, gosh. Penn Halogen. Jennifer Newman. Templar. Dexter and friends. All coming in the house courtesy of our friend Zulu. Thank you, Zulu, for inviting 5 new membos. Man, it's going to be a fun members-only stream tomorrow. Should be pretty lit. Thank you, Zulu, for doing that. Hey, we've got 2012 Jameson says, Wolf versus Universal could make news media say, ouch. Fake news is deceptive news and makes one wonder why the news media is not above deceptive trade laws. Well, I just think they're all part of the establishment. They're all part of the establishment. They're not interested in the truth. They're interested in pushing a narrative. They did it in 2020. It worked for them, so they're going to do it again. A Bad Poet says, did Pelosi get searched for documents of an inside trader? No, I think she just keeps, it's amazing. She just keeps making millions off of her trades. And it's like she always knows something before it's going to happen. It's amazing. A Bad Poet. Thanks for that. Trust2 Kid says, thanks for a great show, Rob. Here's $10 to buy your own do-rag. Yeah, maybe that would be a new look for me, huh? Do-rag. I could be like Jamie Raskin. He's got cancer, but I also saw some pretty thick sideburns on that do-rag head of his. So hopefully, cancer sucks. Hopefully he gets well. And I actually like this do-rag better than the Prison Mike do-rag that he's wearing today. Southie says, blood from what? Blood on the Capitol. Okay, that's a colorful comment. We'll just read that one later. Thank you for that, Southie, though. It's a very colorful comment. Catwoman says, Rob, you educate us every day, and here's more for perfect hair. You look good. Thanks, Catwoman. Thanks, Catwoman. I appreciate it. I can take no credit for it. It's my boy Sergio. My boy Sergio in the house. Shout out to Sergio. Appreciate you. And thanks, Catwoman. Catwoman MN. You look good. Thanks, Catwoman. You look good too. Shout out to your cat. We got Linda says Kushner's deal with the Saudis happened 6 months after Trump left the White House. Well, I don't know. Did Trump fire a Saudi prosecutor or something? I don't know. Much details about that. All I know is they just shout Trump every time something bad is happening for them. Very interesting how that works out, isn't it, Linda? Thanks for the details. Might have to dig into that one, and I'm sure we'll hear more from that from Raskin. What About Me? Been a member for 4 months, baby. Thank you, What About Me? 4 months is a nice one. We're over the hill. We're over the hurdle. Happy birthday to your bro, Rob. See you later, all. Yeah, it's my brother's birthday tomorrow. Not Joey, my other brother, Eric. Rest in peace. Tomorrow is his birthday. And we were asking this morning on our members-only stream about the numerology. Tomorrow is also going to be the 1-year anniversary of the Trump raid. So maybe that will be when something significant happens or when the Georgia prosecution gets filed or something like that. We don't really know. Oh my gosh, another one from Dolphin Fan is the man. Just came in. Let's jump over to Twitter. Oh, Elon. Sorry about that, Elon. Don't get mad at me. All right. Let's jump over to X and see what's happening on the X. Who is here in this lovely, lovely X house? We got Dolphin Fan is the man. We got 5 new membos coming in courtesy of Dolphin Fan. We got M.A. Allen. We got Revolutionary Bliss. We've got Russell W., Michael K., and Wayne H. all coming in courtesy of Dolphin Fan is the man in the house. And thank you very much, Dolphin, for that one. And so, hey, our new friends on YouTube, make sure you grab the Telegram link because that's where we're going for our after party here in a short minute. And Wims is in the house. Wims, I got your message, by the way. So I'm going to respond to you in short order, but sending some loves. Thank you, Wims. Very, very nice and generous of you. And yeah, so we'll be back here tomorrow. And Wims in the house. Hope you're doing well, Wims. I appreciate you. All right, so we have that from our friends on Locals. And thanks to everybody for your very generous support. Really does mean a lot. How many people are watching on X right now? Is there anything happening here? What do you guess? Numbers? 6. That's how many, which means it's going to be a wild week, I can just tell. If we've got 6 on a Monday, that means we might have 7 on a Tuesday, which means by Friday we could be at 10. We don't know. I don't want to get carried away here, but you never know. Billy Jones says, there wasn't enough evidence of widespread fraud to change the outcome. Can they also say there's not enough evidence of widespread insurrection to change the outcome as well? I don't know, but I like it. Yeah, I mean, it's like 1,000 people got charged. It might be as many as 2,000 by the time they're all said and done. Trump goes wild like on spring break. Yeah, except his was on True Social. Normalcy says, I don't want to find out that Joe was Hunter's cameraman. Yeah, me either. Just T says, how can they destroy evidence after trial? What if he wants to appeal? It's all just, by agreement, preservation. We got Matthew Reese says the government doesn't deserve a fair shake. That's the entire point of the Constitution. I agree. Right. The government, this is such a good comment, Matthew, because the government is constant. They have everything. They have all the cards. They have all the laws. They have all the money. They have all the resources. They've got gobs of prosecutors, millions of dollars. They've got, the federal bureaucracy is so massive. The defense has nothing. And then they also say you can't talk and you can't really take notes and you can't do this and you can't do this. Whatever happened to the presumption of innocence? TJ King says Smith lost in the U.S. versus Governor McDonnell over a concept Biden will use to defend himself on bribery. SCOTUS narrowed the definition of an official act. Biden will argue he was casually carrying out Obama policy, not using quid pro quo. Interesting. James is asking, can they delay this until after the election? I think so certainly they can. The question is, will they? I think that Florida will. D.C., I'm not so sure about. Florida's more complicated because of the classification process, which is a lot more complex. This, we have sensitive materials, whatever that is, that they're going to try to narrow. But I think D.C., they'll want to get this done quickly. We'll see if it happens or not. Fred is here, says, Rob, something big has to happen. I don't know what, but Republicans should just stop going to work. Just stop the government. something until major happens. Can't wait for 2024. Well, there's not going to be a government pause or anything. They're spending like lunatics now. Have you guys seen how much they're spending now? It's like they dropped like another $1 trillion this last quarter. Like nuts money. Dennis is here, says joint Russian-Chinese naval exercise encroached Alaska, allegedly war in 6 to 8 months. Oh, that's great. That'll time up nicely with the election. Remember that COVID in 2020 started in March, right? So month 3, we're in month 7, so 6 to 8 months from now. Yeah, probably right about March, April-ish. Okay, so good time for a new worldwide catastrophe that's going to gobble up all of our attention, lock us down, and make us have to vote for Democrats. Hey, Jeremiah 5x5's in the house on Locals. Says Subster talked about the news anchors talking over their guests. Rob, we've wondered in here before about the FCC and Trump's equal time. Is this anchor tactic just the best they can do while still reluctantly accommodating the, quote, equal time? Seems like they would normally rather never let them on air to tell the naked truth. Well, personally, I think what they're doing is they bring them on to see if they can knock them down, right? They all take shots to see if they can just knock them down one after another. And John Lauro was on, I think, 5 or 6 shows yesterday. He was all over the place. So they brought him up. They all want their shot at him. And that's why he was frustrating them bigly. A lot of fun. But thank you, Jeremiah. Good stuff. All right. And so, my friends, that is it for us on this lovely day. It's a beautiful Monday. Members, we are sticking around for our members only after party. We'd love to see you. Also want to remind you about robertgovea.com, which is where you can sign up for our daily newsletter. So if you miss anything on the show, you can get a nice summary of it in your inbox the following morning, along with our show reports and a nice video tutorial about exactly how to use this mind map. So if you're like, I'd love to use the mind map, but I'm confused about how to do it, there's a whole video tutorial. Once you sign up, you'll be able to watch it and learn how to use it. Also, we're going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. We'd love to see you there. We do a bunch of other members only morning streams, a great community. We have a lot of fun. Don't forget to check out fieldofgreens.com so you can get your field of greens and be extra healthy, nutrified, fortified, and well, remembering that the vegetables want to be eaten. Look how happy they look. Yes, even the broccoli too. All right. Mods and Meme Smiths, big thanks for modding down the fort for us and keeping things nice and orderly. All in the house. Our big friends, John McGarvey in the house. Donut Mind Me. Thank you, sir. We got Dog Digger, Janek 909. John Allen's here. Zach Nichols, Beyond Geostars. We got Zulus in the house. Ronnie Cole, Playin' Hooky, Just Cause, K-Bean, Vienti Kiss Prime, all modding down the fort for us. Thank you to the mods. We got the best mods on the whole internet, and we're grateful for them. Thanks to our meme smiths who meme down the fort for us as well. Nathan, N810, Geegum Geegum over on Locals, and our Twitter friend, Sleepy Dogly on Twitter. That, my friends, is it for us on the day. And so we will be back here tomorrow. Same time, same place, every day, same time at this same location during the week. We'd love to see you here. So thank you for subscribing if you're not already a subscriber. And we'll be back here tomorrow to do it all again. And I hope to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.